So this week we actually are doing something a little special, or first time ever, at least for the Rally podcast. We've brought on two additional speakers. One is Anthony Wrench. Some of you may know him. Some of you that don't, I'll let him say a little bit about himself.
Yeah, hey guys, Anthony Rake, you might know me as Tony, um, from UMass Amherst with Mike and one of the other members of the Rally blog. You might see me writing things.
Yes, sir. And on the other side we have Logan Cornelius.
What's up, guys? Logan Cornelius. People call me Logan. From Dallas, Lone Star. You might not have heard of me, but that's me.
Well, they'll know your name after this. Yeah, so we brought these two on just to spice things up a little bit. We're trying to do an almost an around the horn style, so we'll bring up, I think we have 5 or 6 topics on hand to talk about, and we'll try and keep each of those topics to 3 minutes or so speaking time, just so we can cover everything and have some fun.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to start our timer here. The first topic with Chicago Grand Slam coming up this Saturday. Anchored Long Island is going, and they are now the number 5 team on the power rankings. Took out Chiswick Showalter, and Origin Impact in Boston took first place. So we're wondering, how will they keep up their play in Chicago, because their other results have been a little stagnated. Tony, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, if we're talking about keeping up results as if they're going to win again, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, what happened in Boston last weekend was crazy. It was one of the few, like, really, really, really big upsets that any of us have ever seen at a Spikeball tournament like that. I think they're going to do well still. I see them in the top 8 and maybe even sneaking into the top 4, but I don't see them winning again. There's no way they can keep that up.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Anthony on that. I mean, I don't see them winning again, and the only thing harder than beating a good team once is beating a good team twice. They beat Chiswick Showalter and Impact in Boston, but I don't see them doing it again. I think they can end up in top 4. I see that happening. But, I mean, I guess it depends how we define continuing hot. If that means winning, then no, but if it means top 4, I can definitely see them doing that.
I agree. I think the safe money is on them not to go out and win it again. But what I do love about this is that it's all the head game. So every time you've been beaten by a team, next time you play them, you have that doubt creep into your mind. And every time you beat a good team, you think, all right, it can be done. So if they were to go up against Chiswick Showalter again, it's going to be an awesome battle of just who will come out on top, because we really don't know, because it's been proven that they can be beat.
Mm-hmm. But also, again, I don't think they'll win it. I think that they actually might do well again if they're finally feeling that groove. And also, Chicago is on sand, which I believe they prefer to play on. But also noting there is 2 guys is going, and so they took out the number 1 and the number 2, so they might be looking at 2 guys trying to get a win on them, but 2 guys also loves playing on sand. As far as their play goes, it really, I think for them, will come down to pool play, because I think for them, like, starting off strong in the morning is really important, and I think they're a team that kind of needs to get their groove, get those defensive reads in, get those long sets in. So if they struggle in the morning, I think they'll have an unsuccessful afternoon as well.
But remember, in Boston, they didn't have the best morning. I mean, they got the 11 seed?
10
the
seed.
10 seed.
Yeah.
They got the 10 seed, which wasn't great. So they did show they could bounce back there. But going back to the matchup, if they do play Chiswick Showalter again, it'll be interesting to see if Chiswick Showalter, what their response to a loss is, because they've for all intents and purposes replaced Chico as like that number 1 team that is essentially expected to win every tournament. And Chico in 2016 had to figure out what to do after losing some tournaments, figure out how to bounce back. And for the most part, Sean, you and Skylar were able to figure that out. You kept winning, or at least kept that level of play up. And so it'll be Chiswick Showalter's turn to show what they're made of after really taking that first big loss.
I think if they end up meeting up, it's going to be 2 games Chiswick Showalter, 21-17 range.
Bold.
That is very bold.
It was also, PJ does serve better on sand because you can't get there in time. So we'll see what happens. I also want to note, good correction on their not good pool play, but Anthony was serving terribly in Baltimore, so that could make them even better. if he has some good serving games. Not in Baltimore, Boston, sorry.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And just to touch on your mentality comment, Anthony, as far as being the winning team that eventually loses, I think it's two-sided because for Walter, it's almost, at least for back in the Chico days, it was almost like a relief. All right, you lost, you're not undefeated, you don't have to keep up that streak. That weighs pretty heavy on you. But it also shows the rest of the community that there's a dent in the armor, that they're not invincible, which gives all these other teams a little bit of hope, which is the last thing you want. So.
All right, we're going to cut it off there. We went a little over time, but, we'll see. And kind of going over that, with our post yesterday, we posted about the top 10 biggest upsets in RoundNet history. And one of them was, of course, Chiswick Showalter or Moist taking down Chico, which we just were referencing. So we want to look at the list and think, what do we think was the biggest upset in history? And if we think that was the biggest upset in history, because there were some other great ones on the list. So Logan, what do you think?
I would side with that one being the greatest upset. I mean, when you watch the video, you see the reaction by the crowd, and at the time, everyone knew who Chico was. Peter John wasn't as well known at the time. Just Moist in general was just a mashup team that they hadn't heard of. A lot of the other upsets that were listed wasn't necessarily as much of a disparity between the team that won and the team that lost, and the knownness of both teams, like the notoriety of the team. So, and you just see the reaction of everyone in the crowd. Like people, that's the most excited I've seen people at a win in RoundNet. So, I definitely have to side with that being the biggest upset in the sport.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if not, what is the second biggest upset then? If everyone's going to agree that is the biggest, what would we call the second? Because I think that's kind of wide open. It could be, again, Chico losing for their first time against the Beavers.
See, I think I was almost going to argue that the number one would be two guys over Chico at Nationals last year. Just because it's the world stage of Spikeball. It's where the best teams come, and no one would have ever bet on two guys to win that day. And they took out one of the top teams at the time. But it could go either way. If it's not one, I think it's a close second.
Right.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, Sean, too, and I kind of want to just explore some of the other ones now. But just like that, you said that it was, most people thought it was gonna be you and Skylar's last tournament. You had won Nationals the last couple of years. It's there's no way Chico doesn't win this. So anyone beating you two would have been surprising, but especially a team that wasn't one of the teams that really, really looked like they were going to be the one going into that day. Has to be up there, and especially to on Logan's point, the crowd reaction is all part of it. How energized the crowd is. That crowd was both big at Nationals and were pumped. People were just so it was an electric feel being in that crowd. So I think that definitely plays into the mood of that upset. So I gotta put that one as my number two as well.
And also some ammo for that is that it was at Nationals and not Summer Spike. Of course, Summer Spike is one of the biggest and best tournaments. But if Chico loses at Summer Spike, it's crazy. It's a loss, but that's all it is. It's a one tournament loss, and they go to 10 all year. But losing, I'm sorry, this is PTSD for Sean. But losing at Nationals is a much bigger stage. We should just mute him for this conversation and then get back to him.
Yeah, I'll sign out of this rest of this conversation. Yeah. You guys can take it.
That was good. All right. Well, what on that list stood out to you most, Anthony, when you're writing it, is probably one of the biggest upsets?
Well, so there are two that I wanted to, I guess, talk about a little more. Is the OSOC over Bolivia, which is I don't even know in terms of quality of play that day if it was that surprising of a result, but just if you're thinking about it, I bet next to no people that read that post yesterday had any idea who OSOC was. The only idea we did is because they're also from Massachusetts. So just the fact that a team like Bolivia, one of the top rounded teams in the country for a few years now, lost to a team that played intermediate at Summer Spike this year, is just kind of wait, what? That really happened?
Yeah.
So that one, just in terms of the shock factor, gets me.
I believe it might have also been 1 game to 21. I'm not sure, But
and that's what you
I
see
don't
about
really
a lot
know
of
because
those.
I don't know. I remember
That's what
talking
you
to them
see in a
after
lot
it,
of those
but I was
things.
confused.
Yeah.
That was
And the other one, another situation where they had to play shortened games was Oregon Force over Oregon Vengeance at Nationals last year. Just because Oregon Vengeance was that team all year they were right up at the top, but also played with this insane amount of intensity every single point of every single game. So to see them like thrown off by some of their own clubmates, people that they played with fairly frequently, was very, very startling. And so like I didn't have a chance to watch that. I was still playing.
Good for you.
But just like to know that went on, I had to give myself a shout out too. Just to know that went on was pretty cool, or pretty cool and pretty wild.
Yeah. What was Vengeance seeded? Oh, that was round of 32.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that would have been a lot worse.
Yeah, with OSOG in 2015, that was still when Bolivia was fairly new on the scene, wasn't it? Though
they were new, but they just got second to Chubby Bunny at a tournament, and then they got second place at Birch Hill against Chubby Bunny again, and they beat was Ball Blasters. So like they just beat Ball Blasters the month before.
Yeah, although Gus wasn't at that tournament.
Oh right. That was Cole.
David played with Cole Parker.
Yeah, that's true.
As Bolivia.
Right. Yeah, so they were fairly new on the scene, but they did fly to Summer Spike, so you'd expect something like that too.
Yeah, that's true.
But
that's
yeah.
True. I would put Origin Force over Origin Vengeance. That one's a bigger has bigger shock factor and upset to me than two guys over Chico. One, because Chico wouldn't lose in the round of 32 at Nationals, and Vengeance, they by their own club. I believe you said in the article they never lost to their own. They never lost to another Origin team. So for that to happen on not even the biggest stage, but on the road to the biggest stage. So it's not like even was the national championship. It was a few rounds out of the national championship match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Just unexpected. Those early round upsets.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And yeah. Okay. Good chunk on that one. A lot of upsets. I'm glad we didn't talk about mine. Okay, so move on to a more casual one. Probably just hit our 3 minutes on this. What is your favorite pre-tourney meal? What do you like the night before, or what do you eat during the day? Sean, you've been doing it for a long time. What do you like to eat?
So I like to carb a lot the night before. I can't say I give too much thought the day of. I would say if anything, I don't eat very much. In the morning, I like to have a piece of fruit, granola bar, something light. But then throughout the day, I typically wouldn't eat until after tournament. I'd just be starving by the end of it. But for some reason, I just didn't like the food. I didn't have an appetite, so I just wouldn't eat during the day. I don't know if I'd recommend that, but it worked for me.
I'll carry off that. Same thing. I do not like to eat during tournaments. I'll have at most a granola bar. Actually, in Montreal, I had a sub because they had free subs, and I regretted it all the way to the semifinals. I was just feeling so bad. But there are consequences. Like after regionals 2016, I think I almost passed out while we were waiting for our dinner because we didn't eat till like 7, and I was just there, wanted to pass out, and it's definitely a really weird habit. But in the morning, you got to go to Dunkin' Donuts. I'll know that. They should sponsor the podcast. But you got to find a Dunks in whatever city you're in. Just find a Dunks and get your large iced coffee black and your egg and cheese and hash browns, and you're good. I'm very consistent. All right, Tony, what about you?
I agree. I agree with Sean about the carb loading the night before. It's all about that big meal. But in the morning of and during tournament, it's all about bagels. I don't know. I felt like recently this year, I just like at least a bagel before the tournament. I think a couple weeks ago before a tournament in Long Island, I might have eaten 2 before the tournament, and then 1 during at like lunch, or like kind of snacking on it from lunch throughout bracket play. And then supplementing that with granola bars and as much fluid as you can possibly take in. I think that's the way to go for me.
I have a feeling Logan eats a lot during the tournament. I don't know.
Well,
he's going to get a barbecue.
Not quite. Night before, I like to have pasta Alfredo. What I like to have is different from what I generally have. But if I could have it my way, I'm having chicken Alfredo pasta at night, and in the morning, I'm waking up, I'm having bacon, sausage, eggs, while doing Sudoku. I don't do Sudoku, but I like to try to do it in my mind. I'm thinking, oh, with my brain going, I'll play better. It's an all right method. But then during the tournament, I always have a turkey sandwich or turkey sub for lunch. Is generally what I do. I played a tournament this last week in grades. Like there was one round where I was hungry during the match and literally couldn't stop thinking about those green onion Lay's chips. And then once the round ended, I went and had some. And I'm pretty sure I had a peanut butter and jelly right before the finals. But that's the hungriest I've ever been in a tournament. I probably had 10 or so granola bars throughout the day and lots of fluid. So I eat quite a bit for tournaments.
That's a different thing, drinking for tournaments. Because in Columbus, we went to a CVS the night before, and I think it was 4 for $5 or 4 for $4 for Gatorades. And I grabbed 4, like, big Gatorades, like, huge, like 32 ounce. And Ezra's like, all right, cool. So I grabbed 2 blues and 2 orange. And he goes, all right, so I'll have the blues. I go, no, these are all for me. And he doubted how much Gatorade I could drink during the tournament. But I'll forget, so I need someone reminding me too. Or Pedialyte. A lot of people like to drink Pedialyte during the tournaments.
I like Pedialyte.
Yeah. Would
you guys say, because it's never really a problem I've had, but tons of players do with cramping. Do you guys typically experience that? I've never cramped. Getting a lot of head shakes. Doesn't seem like it.
I have also never cramped, yeah.
Maybe we're just not working hard enough.
We're just very efficient.
My body's used to losing all that sweat and electrolyte. That's like walking out the front door for me.
All right, no problems there. Thanks, Logan, for your insight into your turkey sandwich. Okay.
And Sudoku.
Yeah. But he doesn't play Sudoku. He just plays his brain. Okay, next we have a topic that kind of came up last year after Nationals and hasn't been touched on that much. It was in 14 and 15, we used the top 8 teams at Nationals, the final 8, the Elite 8, the quarterfinalists, to be the Spikeball Elite for the next season. But this past year, 2016, we actually used a point system where the top 8 teams with points from their best 5 events were given the Spikeball Elite. So we wanted to look into that and what you guys think about it.
Can I start this one?
All you?
Yeah. All right. So for me, it has to be throughout the year. If the idea is that these teams are like the Spikeball sponsored teams for the upcoming year, then it has to be those teams, because those teams have then showed by achieving that, like racking up all those points, that they're going to go to a lot of tournaments and are going to perform well. So they're people that you want to continue like promoting or encouraging to go to these tournaments and do well and represent the sport. And I think the thing is that like just getting top 8 at Nationals, that's still an incredible distinction. Like if you just tell people that you got top 8 at Nationals, like that still has a huge place of honor. And it can be completely separate from everything else that comes with Spikeball Elite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, it's like March Madness and NBA Finals. March Madness is more fun. NBA Finals is more fair. So if it's top 8 at Nationals, that's going to be more fun because there's so much weight on every round in Nationals. So it's a lot more thrilling to watch. So as a fan, that's great. It's like, okay, there's so much pressure. But honestly, it's got to be throughout the season because that's just more fair. Teams are putting in work. You want to encourage teams to play and stay together for the entire season. You got to take their full body of work. Otherwise, you can just pair up at the end of the year and try to go for it all. Although it is more fun that way because there's so much more pressure on it.
Yeah, I wanted to play devil's advocate, but I do agree with you too that it has to be a throughout the season thing. And I think there are perks to getting top 8 at Nationals aside from being elite. Obviously, you want to be elite if you're a top Spikeball player. It's a great way to be recognized and then also get a little help on the side. But I think the accolades of a season is much better indicator than just one tournament alone.
Yeah, you guys are pretty much saying everything I was thinking. I did also want to play devil's advocate because you like going into Nationals, maybe less as much before. When you were in Power Pool, like what you did before mattered, and it helped you. You know, if you did well during the season, you get a good seed for your pool. You got Power Pool and all that. So what you did before does matter, but you have to perform on the biggest day. Of course, Spikeball can be inconsistent, and it's tough to do well and judge those teams, but getting top 8 at Nationals is a huge feat. And besides the points you get, there isn't much else external reward for that. But I agree, it should be through the season because we want to encourage that. But I think getting top 8 at Nationals maybe should be a little more celebrated than it sometimes seems to be. You know, we often forget what happens with a lot of tournaments. A lot of times we just focus on the top 3, where there are other teams that maybe would have, did very well and got top 8 or 4th place and things like that.
That was a less exciting topic than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
We all agree.
We all agreed. I thought we would agree.
It's hard playing devil's advocate for that one.
Yeah.
Because then it's like situations where at like 2015 Nationals, you have like Oregon Elite who doesn't end up being elite because they lose in the round of 16.
Yeah.
A team like Buns and Guns ends up moving into there.
Yeah.
It's like crazy, like a crazy swap of elite spots.
Like, it's
maybe that's fun though.
I know. Well, the first year,
it is. Yeah. Oh, it definitely is.
In 2015, Elite didn't make it, and they were the number 2, number 3 team all year. And then they don't make it because they lose in the round of 16 to a very good team, whatever. But the team that wasn't even in the power pool, so couldn't even they had to play them earlier than they would have had they played better in one earlier tournament. But then in 2016, Vengeance loses to Force. Say we still had the system and they didn't get Elite. Well, they lost in the round of 32 at Nationals. Should a team that's the top 8 in the sport lose in the round of 32 at Nationals? Maybe not. But hey, we'll see. We'll see how it goes this year. We'll have a bunch of upsets and a bunch of mashup teams will make top 8, and we'll be like, oh, this doesn't work. All right.
So we already took our chance to rail on Sean too, but it seems like we're also like subtly railing on Dylan for losing every Nationals before the later rounds.
He's not even here to defend himself.
No. Hey,
Dylan,
someone wanted him as
sorry,
a guest.
but like not that sorry also.
Hey, also Chris. Chris also lost too. People forget.
Yeah.
Team effort.
That's just a great example of a great team going out early. Yeah. And a great example for Nationals. Okay, moving on. Another fun one. I probably should have thought about this before. If we had an all-star weekend and skills competition, what skills event would you like to see most?
I've already thought of 2. All
right, pick one.
Pick one. Fine. Okay, one would be it's the target setting. So like some you have like targets you got to get into, and like farther distances, moving targets, you got to set it into the bin, get it in there, practice that directional and targeted setting. I think that'd be pretty fun to see who could do that best.
Yeah, that was actually one that I had. But I was envisioning like a bullseye. Like in the middle, there's a net, and then there's a circle of nets around, and where you I was thinking you have a bunch from a distance or from different shots, like a 3-point contest, and you get different point values depending on where it lands.
Moneyball.
Yeah. Second that I was thinking was like in the NHL, they have a net set up, and you got to serve and hit all the targets. See how good you can get those angles. The targets will be kind of in a circle around, so you got to work on your sidestep, get those flango angles, and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Similar to hockey, I think goalies use some type of exercise like this, but like hand-eye reaction time. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it would be with lights or with a ball machine, but essentially simulating up-close defense or defense in general, getting hands on balls and how many you can touch or get up while they're coming at you real fast.
Yeah, these are awesome. I think we actually had it at 2016 Summer Spike 2 is just the hardest serve too. Bring out the radar gun and let the big guns go.
And let Drucker win.
Yeah, let people like Drucker and Anthony Alvino, let them like just go at it and see who can hit the hardest legitimate serve. That's pretty fun too. It's pretty fun to watch that happen.
How many balls are we going to sacrifice for that event? At least 5 or 6 will be popped.
Yeah, that's fun. I think another one too. I don't know how you actually turn this into an event, but one of my favorite things is watching people that have really quick first steps and like can get to long balls and lay out effectively. Like Buddy Hammond comes to mind as someone that does that just like super quick after the ball is hit, of just like taking those steps and extending and getting there. So if there's some way to simulate that, maybe it's by actually just putting people in like fake game situations and then hitting long balls and having people try to get like dive and get them up and then have it actually get back on net with their partner. But that I would love to watch that one.
I could imagine that as their partner is behind the net and they spike it and it has to go a certain amount. Say it has to go 15, 20 feet. And then the partner starts at the net and chases it down. And then they have to successfully return it back on. So essentially you get to decide where you hit it at what angle, but you have to hit it a certain amount.
Yeah.
So I can participate. I can't even hit it that far.
It's true.
Yeah, I also think like just the fundamentals of footwork. So if it's like a speed test between cones or something, that's huge on defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brian Fitzgerald would do pretty well in that, and Harding could do a really good like his bunny hop around. We could have 100 dash of Harding footwork. If you don't know, he just kind of like he shuffles really well, but he's one of the only people that kind of keep a general like shuffling footwork. So it looks interesting to watch. Okay. Oh, and speaking of Harding, our last topic here, the last one that we have written down, which I think I've discussed this with a couple people in the car before. Should a lefty server ever fuego it to a person's left hand, or I mean right hand, and not just rip it at their left hand? What I've heard is that a lot of people say that if you have a strong left hand serve, you should always just target their left hand, which is weaker. So the question is, do you think that is the right thing to do?
I'll start. I'll say everything's situational. So maybe they hurt their hand or they're hanging off to their left more and you want to catch them on the right. But as a right-hander, I always want to come to my right hand as compared to my left. So anytime a lefty's serving to me, I usually favor step to the left a few steps just to hopefully help myself. But then I have seen lefties, what they'll do is try and swip it to my right real quick because I'm out of position. That's the only time I think it would be beneficial.
I think it would depend on how quality you think your serves are, because I personally always hit my right hand serve to their right hand. Obviously, if I wanted to target their offhand, I would have to fuego it over there. But I take the chance that I think my fuego on their left is not as good as my forehand on their right. But most common people have a better forehand serve than a fuego or a, other angled serve. So you would think that they would have a better chance to target their weaker hand. Tony, what do you think?
Yeah, I played with Ben Dantowitz of Dual Barrel at camp this year, and he has one of the meanest lefty serves you'll ever see. And so for people like him that hit it that hard, it really doesn't make any sense to try to hit anything else. But like Sean said, it's all situational. There definitely are situations in which it could be beneficial to change up that angle if they start cheating, and also just to change up that angle so that someone can't get too comfortable with like just only focusing on that left hand when they're going to serve. I mean, the same with righties and hitting a forehand and a fuego and a sidestep. It's all about changing the angles that the ball is coming at too, so that the receiver is never really comfortable. So I definitely think that a fuego does have a place in a lefty's arsenal, as long as you're continuing to mix it up with the forehand and whatever other serves you use.
Basically, repeating what everyone else said. I mean, primarily you don't want to do that. It's not your advantage, but you got to change. You have to have a change of pace serve. That can be one of them. And I think keep them honest, keep them from cheating over, and just keep them on their toes. If you do the same thing, sometimes they get used to it. They get in that groove, even if you are serving to their left hand. But throw that in a couple times, get them used to the fuego, or let them loosen up a little bit, and then go back to your serve. It really should only be used as like a change of pace. You get your opponent out of their groove. Otherwise, like Anthony was saying with thin serve, if you're hitting it that hard and you come back into a serve with your left, and it's going to their weak hand, it's hard to argue that you shouldn't do that pretty steadily.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. We nailed all these topics. 6 for 6.
Killed it. Who's got a hot take?
Ooh.
Is two guys gonna win Chicago?
No.
Is that hot though?
No,
No.
I'm just asking.
Oh.
Because I'm asking because Sean's hot take at the beginning of the year was that two guys will not win any West Coast event, was it?
Yeah,
And
West.
they didn't do a West Coast event, so now they're on to Chicago regionals and nationals. Hey, they did win the SoCal Showcase. Does that count?
No.
No, I'm kidding. That did not count in your hot take.
No. No. I don't think they would, but I wouldn't put it past them, you know? I didn't think they were going to win nationals. They did that, so anything is possible at a Spikeball event.
Sean covering all his bases.
There you go.
All right, is Logan going to win Chicago?
I like that. I like that take.
Probably not. That's probably a lot colder to take, too.
All right.
Logan, what would you say your odds are if someone were to bet on you?
I'll do percentage.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know if I don't like doing percentages on my stuff.
All right, Tony, do a percentage.
Yeah, you do percentages for me.
That Logan wins.
Sensitive.
I'll give you a 3%.
That's pretty
so-
high. That's pretty
I was
That
so-
high.
honestly felt
I was-
high. I'm sorry, that felt
That's
high.
low.
I was hoping for 5.
I was set up for 5. You think if the tournament happened 20 times, you would win once? Probably.
I'm not.
Just kidding.
No comment for me. I
Yeah.
can't comment on myself.
All right, they're gonna win. Everyone bet on Logan.
Wait, the real question though is, are we going to see Mike White at another tournament this year?
That's a good
Yeah,
question.
you're gonna see me. I'm gonna win the Montreal tour, September 30th. You'll see me there.
30.
Defend that title.
Yeah, I need
Was
to.
that 30th, Mike?
September 30th.
Maybe I'll get someone to go to that one.
Okay, but I have to win. It's like in the contract.
I'll go 3% chance of winning.
Probably. I don't have a partner yet. I've got some options.
3% is just Logan's standard odds of winning at any tournament at this
Yeah.
time.
Really just,
Not just
Hey,
Chicago.
he just won a tournament. That
that's-
was incredibly unlikely. How'd you win
Yeah,
that?
it was an upset. We forgot on the upset.
Biggest upset of
You
all
must
time.
have hit that.
Biggest upset of all time.
Must have hit that 300%.
All right. Thanks, guys, for coming on. I think we'll sign off now. Really tackled that. Didn't really stick to the timer that much, but we kept under a good time.
It was the illusion of a timer that kept us on track.
Yeah.
Wow. And the 4
Great.
people. It's not just me and Sean talking back and forth while I zone out. All right.
All right.
Well, we'll say bye. Thanks for listening. This has been the Rally Blog Podcast, episode 19. We're going to get this out as soon as we can, and we'll see you all in Chicago this weekend.
Yeah.
Or
Oh,
on
yeah.
Periscope, or on Twitter for updates, or in the recap the coming next week.
Stay tuned, baby.
All right. Peace.